Congratulations, you just got the board fundraising activation toolkit. In this short video, I'm going to be walking you through the step-by-step execution process you need to follow to activate your board to start supporting and participating in fundraising. This is one of the most challenging experiences most nonprofit founders and executive directors have. They have board members that do not actively support fundraising. They, of course, sometimes show up in other areas of the organization. They show up for meetings, right? But when it comes to fundraising, when you talk about funding, you see people go silent, they withdraw. And this is not very healthy for any organization because here's the truth. It is the board's responsibility to ensure an organization is adequately funded. So if you're the only one in your organization, in your board that's championing fundraising, it means something is out of place. Because the nonprofit world is not a solo sport. It's not a one-man show. It is a place for collaboration. And when you collaborate as a board to ensure the organization is adequately funded, you are 70% more likely to be successful when compared to you, the founder, trying to do it all by yourself, or the executive director just trying to do it all by themselves with a fundraising team. Your board has access to a very rich source of network that they can actually tap into. Your board members can support you in building your organization's fundraising system. They can support you in actually supporting your organization's fundraising drive by supporting you to make the ask, going into presentations and meetings with you, actively leading the fundraising team, for working with you to create the fundraising materials and content, right? Stewarding donors, making introductions. There are lots of ways your board members can come in when it comes to supporting your fundraising. And until you tap into that opportunity, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You're leaving a lot of support on the table. And again, they can also support you in funding your organization's fundraising drive. So if you are one who's self-funding the organization, basically you're spending a lot of money out of your own pocket and your board members are basically stepping back and just showing up for meetings, you're wrong. Things has to be fixed. If you're an executive director who's basically, trying to champion the whole thing and your board members aren't providing you any support, then you must correct it. And this is what's going to help you correct it. So let's go into the process. The board fundraising acquisition process actually has four key parts. And these parts can actually be executed over the course of 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on how you're able to mobilize your board as fast as possible. And really, you should be able to mobilize your board as fast as possible to get this done in 1 week. If you can't mobilize your board in 1 week to get something like this done, then it means your board culture is weak and it has to be worked on. And of course, this process is also going to help you work on your board culture because it's going to help you really get board members participating and showing up, unlike what you may have before. And another important note, even when your board is disengaged, your board is inactive, this process can also still work through for you because it's a very simple process that starts with fundraising pre-planning. Next is where you create the fundraising plan, strategy plan, and then the next is where you adopt the plan before you are going to execute the plan. So let's dive right into the process because I want you to understand this process and then go on to lead your board through this process and not just lead this board because this is a continuous process. When you bring in a new board member, you're going to have to take them through this process. You send them the pre-planning form. After they've filled that up, you adopt the ideas into the present fundraising plan. When you meet during the next board meeting, you all have to review those new ideas that have been adopted. You all have to review those new ideas that you've added to the fundraising plan. You all have to adopt it, and then the new board members then issue the board for portfolio so that they can start executing in their own area that they can support. So the very first step is the pre-planning. What we do with the pre-planning is we send out what we call the fundraising pre-planning form to each board member. What we're looking to get from this sending out this process is this. We want them to share their ideas on who they think should fund the organization. Whether you like it or not, your board members actually have some unique ideas that you may be surprised. Some of them have worked with other nonprofits before. Some of them are within network that actually give them access to some opportunities that you have no access to. So when they share their ideas on who can fund your mission, you may be surprised the kind of people, the kind of businesses they are going to be pointing out to. Also, aside the kind of people and businesses that should fund your organization, they're also going to help you share ideas on how do we reach these people? How do we attract them on a daily basis? And aside sharing ideas on how to reach and attract these people, they're also going to share ideas on how do you think we can raise money from these people. So some of them are going to share their insight, which is going to be very useful for you. But aside these three core questions, we also want to know how are you open to supporting the organization when it comes to fundraising? Are you open to supporting us with donor stewardship? Are you open to joining us to make the ask? Are you open to working with us to build the fundraising team, create the fundraising materials? The different areas board members can join. We all have that listed out in the form so that they can choose with their own hands where they think they really fit when it comes to board fundraising execution. And aside how they intend to support the fundraising execution, we're also asking, are you open to giving to fund the organization's fundraising execution? Because this is really very important, and I want you to understand this. You don't get board members to give money to fund programs. That's a wrong approach. It's like giving somebody money to eat for a day. When the next day come, how will they eat? But when you fund their ability to be able to make more money, then of course you now have created a system that's sustainable for them. So your board members should give to fund the organization's fundraising process rather than give to fund programs. And this form is going to help you get them to signify, yes, I'm open to supporting the organization's fundraising execution. Once they fill up that form and of course send it back to you, right? You need to then take those ideas and also you also fill out the form yourself. You also need to fill out the form yourself. It's not just them sharing the ideas, you're also sharing your own ideas. Once you've been able to get those ideas all back to you, the next step is the fundraising plan creation, which is where you, the founder or the executive director, comes in. You take all that ideas, right, plus your own, and synchronize it into one fundraising plan. And the good part is, aside the fundraising planning form, that the pre-planning form that we provided you and the email templates you need to communicate all throughout that process, we've also provided you the fundraising plan creation manual that explains how to actually build each part of the fundraising plan into a solid fundraising plan you and your board can execute. Starting from identifying who the ideal people, businesses, and grantors that are meant to fund the organization, who they are. This is very important because your entire strategy is based on knowing who you're reaching out to. So you want to identify who are the type of people who can fund our mission, who are the type of people who can fund businesses who can fund our mission, and who are the type of grantors who would give to our organization. So, for example, a homeless organization, right? You did find that the people who are most likely to give to such a mission, for example, could include people who benefit from that mission. So when you look at a organization that empowers homeless people to, get homes, you find that some of the people who benefit most from that mission are the real estate agents, or the home decor businesses, or the real estate companies, or the families of people who are actually homeless. These are people who are most likely to give to that mission because they benefit from the mission. They have people who benefit from the mission. They are most aligned with the mission. So you need to be able to identify these people, these businesses, and these grantors that are meant to give to your organization. And then next, you're saying, where do we find these people? Where do we find real estate agents? Most likely LinkedIn or other platforms that you can identify. Where do we find real estate companies? Most likely the business, directory of your local environment or your service area. So you're making sure you're actually identifying these step by step. And then how do we attract these people on a daily basis? You could actually put a survey out there that targets real estate agents to actually share their ideas, and then you begin to get their contact details, right? So I'm just giving you an example of what that's going to look like. But you've most importantly, you're identifying who the people are, who the businesses are, who the grantors are, where to find them, how to attract them on a daily basis, the step-by-step process to raise money from them. Because you just don't reach out to people for the first time and you're asking them, please give to our organization. You're most likely not going to get funded. And even if you get funding, it's most likely going to be people giving out some, chicken change out there. But if you're looking to people for people who are really going to commit to your mission, who are going to keep giving to your mission, you then have to have a step-by-step process that nurtures them, that gets them to trust you, that get them to like your organization before you make the ask. And that's where the step-by-step process comes in. And aside the step-by-step process, of course, you're going to need to identify who are the people we need to execute this process. Because it's not your job to actually run around executing every step of the process. You don't have to send out the emails, try to book the meetings and all that. You could bring people in who help you do this so that you only show up to make the ask once you get into the room. And aside the people who are going to help you execute, you're also looking at what materials and tools do we need to execute this strategy? Do we need a fundraising appeal? Do we need a landing page? Do we need a proposal? Do we need a grant template? All that needs to be factored into your strategy plan. And of course, the budget. You're looking at if this is our execution strategy, what do we need to actually execute this seamlessly in this present day? We may need to run Facebook adverts, we may need to run LinkedIn adverts, we may need to organize events. Whatever that cost is going to be, you need a budget for it. And that's what your board members are going to be giving to. So you, the founder, you, the executive director, you're the one who's now going to take all the ideas that they've shared and then use it to create a detailed plan like I just explained. If somebody shared parents, if somebody shared real estate agents, you're bringing all that together. But the good thing is we've provided you AI instructions, AI prompts that you can then take with these ideas everybody shared, put it into AI. AI is going to fine tune it and help you really micro focus on the most important target audience you should be focusing on. Across the entire fundraising planning, we provided you AI prompts for you to be able to build a solid plan from the ground up. And then after the planning, you must then email this plan. After you've created the plan, you must email it back to the board members to get them to review the plan. You want them to look through the plan, make sure they're actually reviewing to, if there's any area of concern or any areas they think can be improved, they have to actually, note that aside. So once you create the plan and you send it back, the email you're sending it back with, of course, is going to say we are going to be reviewing and adopting this plan during our next board meeting. So we're saying your next board meeting because we feel, the next board meeting is a meeting every board member is most likely going to come to. But it doesn't have to really be your next board meeting. You could actually call a special emergency meeting to say, let's review and adopt this plan. But for the sake of keeping things according to your board structure, you could work with your next board meeting. So when you go into the next board meeting, of course, your job is to invite everybody in, make sure every board member is there because the goal is for that next board meeting is for you all to review the plan together and adopt it and then move forward to execution. So when you all meet, you have to review the plan together. You have to review each section. Now, these are the people we've identified that are ideal funding audiences. We've identified parents, we've identified teachers, we've identified real estate agents, we've identified business people. Now, I want us to look through this section. Is there any set of group of people that are missing from this section that we should have in here? Are there people who should not be here? So you want to review each section of the fundraising plan with them. Now, this is our strategy to raise money from them. What do you think about the strategy? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think there are areas we can improve on this strategy? So you're reviewing and asking questions back and forth, getting their feedback, and of course, taking note of any review or feedback that they provide. The job is not to make that update there so that you don't elongate the meeting. The job is to make sure it's well noted so that when you go back, you can factor that into the final plan and before sending out that plan back to everybody on the board. But the most important part is you're reviewing it with them. Each person is asking questions, providing feedback, adopting, so that at every point of the plan, once you're done with that section, everybody shares, yes, we're satisfied with what's on that section, and you move to the next. So that at the very end of the plan, once you've adopted everything, including the budget, right, you can now move forward to confirm approval and adopt the plan as an organized, as a board. That's where you then move the motion. I want to move the motion for adopting this plan as our fundraising plan that we all are going to commit to as an organization. Anyone second the motion, have them come up and second the motion. And at the end, you say this plan is finally approved as our working document. You're going to get the final feedback based on the reviews you all have shared here today. This is really very important because when they all agree to adopt that plan in that place, it means they've all committed to seeing that plan executed. But aside adopting the plan, of course, you also want to move forward to say, now that we've adopted the plan, let's move on to how we get to execute the plan. So, Mary, you pointed out in your pre-planning form that you're going to support us in making the ask. Is that something you're still comfortable with doing, or are there other areas you would want to come in based on what we've created together? Allow them say, yes, that's something I'm comfortable doing, or I think I can also help in this area. All right, Mary, that's noted. We're going to be getting back to you with a portfolio on what that's going to look like. So that each person gets to actually choose or agree on the area that they're going to be working with you on, voicing it out. And then you taking note of it because after that meeting, of course, you're going to be sending out each person's portfolio based on what they've agreed to. And of course, the board can then agree to say, this is how we're going to be following up moving forward. And that could include, we need to recruit this team that's going to execute the plan with us. For now, we don't have money to recruit the team. We could bring in volunteers, or we need to actually bring in more board members to support us as a board so that we can actually, cover other areas that were not yet covered in this plan. You all must agree on what's the action moving forward so that at that note, you can then end the meeting. Once you end the meeting, of course, you're going to have to send out follow-up materials. You're going to have to send out follow-up materials, email to those who decided to give. You have to email them with the donation link, email to everyone so that they can actually identify people and businesses that fit their ideal, funding audience from their network. They can actually map them out, include their contact details, because that's a warm list of audience that you can start reaching out to for funding, right? Also, you need to also email out the fundraising portfolio for each board member based on the area they've agreed that they're going to support with. Those that agree that are going to work with you to recruit the execution team, you're going to have to send them a portfolio that captures that so that they know this is real business. That's how you get your entire board committed to supporting. And of course, lastly, execution. So execution is really where you all now begins to work to execute the fundraising plan. And this is very important. I need to say this. First, when you do the fundraising adoption meeting, we have the facilitation guide for you to follow. So you don't even have to think it through. You have every material you need to execute each step of the process is provided you. Now, when it comes to the execution, the your board is not your fundraising team. Your board is going to be supporting fundraising. They're going to be showing up in other areas, working with you to build the fundraising system, but they are not your fundraising team. You need a dedicated fundraising team that's going to be showing up day in, day out to help you raise money. If you make, for example, a board member your social media person, you're going to wear them out, and that's going to get them to withdraw from the board or even go silent. So your job is to bring in a fundraising team that can execute so that the board can then provide the leadership it is meant to provide. So when it comes to execution, after you create your fundraising plan, the ideal process is to then go and recruit or structure your fundraising team based on the fundraising strategy you've created. So now, based on your fundraising strategy you've created, you've identified that these are the people you need to execute. Your job then is to go bring them in or structure the people you already have to fit that strategy. This is really very important for your execution. And aside the team you need to execute, you also need materials, fundraising materials you need to execute. You and your board has to work together to build those materials. You could bring in people to actually work with you to build those materials, but it's your board responsibility to ensure those materials are available for your fundraising team to execute. Also, like I talked about, there could also be a situation where you need new board members. For example, it is very important you have a fundraising professional in your board, not because they are going to be the ones actually making the ask, but they can advise the board and also lead the fundraising team. And this is where recruiting new board members come in. So you need to recruit new board members if you have gaps within your board that you need to fill. And of course, once you have a fundraising team, you have the materials ready, you have a fundraising professional on your board, it is next to execute consistently if you want to raise money. So your fundraising team needs to be out there day in, day out, right? Executing so that to put you in front of fundraising opportunities that you can go in to close and take advantage of for the organization. So what we usually do is once the board is activated and the board has a strong fundraising strategy, for organizations that do not have the resources to recruit a paid fundraising team yet, we launch what we call the Volunteer Fundraising Fellowship. So what that could look like if the name of the organization is Another Blessed Ministry, we're going to launch Another Blessed Ministry Volunteer Fundraising Fellowship. So it's going to be like a fellowship where young people come together to learn real life fundraising experience, right, and growing their fundraising career. And most of the people we bring into that program are people who already have skills in these areas. They already know, they already have skills in creative writing, they already have skills in social media outreaches, they already have skills in email marketing, they already have skills in setting up appointments. So what we do is we bring these ones in into the fundraising fellowship and they help the organization execute 1 hour a day. So for example, if you have three volunteers within the fundraising fellowship, one executing to target individual donors, one executing to target businesses, and one executing to target grantors, and each giving 1 hour a day. That's 3 hours of fundraising in a day, and that's 15 hours of fundraising in a week to put you in front of funding opportunities or to drive donors to your landing page so that they can go there and give. That's a unique opportunity an organization that's yet to employ or engage a full-time fundraising team should not run or turn back on. So what the individual donor volunteer does is they help you create content on your social media, they drive people to your donation landing page, and they help you set up meetings with major give donors that are most likely going to give to your organization. Those for businesses, they help you set up meetings with the business executives so that you can go in and close that opportunity for the organization. The grantors, the ones involved in grants, they actually research grants, help you build a list. Each of these audience, of course, they do research and help you build a list. But aside helping you build a list, they also email grant program directors to set up a meeting between you and them. Because what we've noticed is grantors usually give money to organizations they know, like, and trust. 90% of grants go to organizations these grantors already know. So if you're just one who's just, writing an application, hoping that one application fall through, you're going to struggle. But when you're able to get into these organizations, get them to know you, like you, trust you before you even submit the application, you increase your chances of getting those grants by as much as 70%. So they set up meetings with these grantors for you so that you go in. And then lastly, they write at least one grant application a week. So if you have one grant coming out of your organization every week, that's most likely going to be 4 grant application in a month. And at the end of the day, you're most likely going to be converting at least 20 to 30% of those grants, which is one of those grants at least. And it's not like they get to submit the grant, right? They write the grant, they write the draft, submit it to you, you modify it, you improve it, whatever bring in your voice, whatever you need to strengthen it, you strengthen it, and then you do the submission. Just as you are the one who does the making the ask when it comes to these businesses and major gift donors. The only time these volunteers, the only thing they really do is just drive those traffic and audience to you. That's how you get to actually raise money. So we have a toolkit to help you launch this volunteer fundraising fellowship. If you're interested in that, you can find my email here, rooney at nonprofitboardbuilder.com. Send that email to me. I'm going to send you the toolkit so that you can launch your own volunteer fundraising fellowship and you can bring in talents, young talents that can help you start executing day to day, putting you in front of funding opportunities so that your board members can actually show up as leaders and not as fundraising officers, which is most likely going to wear them out and get them on that. So if you have any question as you execute this process, if you need any help, please reach out to me. This is what I do, and I'll love to help you see you successful. And also, I'll love your feedback as you use this tool, as you get the result that is promised. I want to be able to tell the world that you have also passed through this process and these are your results. And of course, that's going to provide you lots of promotional opportunities as I share that to my network. So reach out to me, send me your feedback. Let me know how this tool was able to help you, how your board is presently faring, so that we can keep sharing the news to other nonprofits. Thank you again for getting the board fundraising activation toolkit. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to working with you. If you have any challenge, let me know. I'll be happy to come in and help you correct things. I'll see you on the other side. Bye.